In episode 5, now that Lois knows the truth, she tries her best to expose Clark as Superman by following him to every crime and disaster that he is currently stopping. But of course she can't catch up and is growing very exerted. During this, Jimmy is wanting to go to a specific camp in the woods with Lois and Clark to try and find Bigfoot, but he is stopped from this by Steve, who is the sports news guy at the Daily Planet, who wants him to help him with some supposed news-related business outside. Later, at a sort of garage-type business, Lois tries to beat Superman there, having listened to the police radio for signs of criminal activity involving the mysterious tech that's been used for pretty much every villain so far. Superman finds Lois there and of course is, annoyed with how often she shows up to these situations, but Lois decides to handcuff herself to Superman to prevent him from leaving and to get the truth from him. But before that can happen, the group of bad guys with the special tech show up, having already stolen what they need to steal, and most of them are able to escape except for one of them, who is kind of the leader, who is like this husky lady who hasn't been able to get her tech to work properly, and Superman stops her from trying to get away, but he is confused when she suggests that he is going to kidnap her just like the others. When trying to press her for details, Superman doesn't get much, and by the time they really get anywhere, the lady gets her armor to work and she escapes via trying to flame Lois and Superman. Of course, Superman thinks that this lady is dangerous with her flame technology and decides to drop Lois off on the Daily Planet roof and quickly breaks the handcuff that bound them together with ease and flies away, with Lois yelling after him, finishing it off by yelling for Clark and not Superman, but it's very clear that he doesn't hear it. Meanwhile, outside of a baseball stadium, Jimmy is taking video of Steve outside of the stadium, just kind of talking and doing some poses and all that. And soon Steve reveals that he is the creator of a YouTube channel that is currently sort of crapping on Jimmy's channel, and Jimmy didn't even know at the time. So there's a bit of awkwardness there, but throughout all of that stuff, Steve has been comparing Jimmy to him and saying that they're both lone wolves, which Jimmy denies, but Steve kind of frozen, like how Lois and Clark haven't really answered his texts much and have been very busy doing other things, which just throws some doubt at Jimmy. But in the end, Jimmy just says that he trusts his friends and that they are like his best friends, especially with him getting a text from Clark, which gives him some hope. So he leaves Steve, especially because the whole video thing wasn't even official Daily Planet business, so it's not like he's gonna get fired or anything. Speaking of fire, we see the flame lady running away from somebody in a sort of construction site, and it turns out the person who has been chasing her is actually Deathstroke, who was seen earlier in the opening scene to have very speedily kidnapped some of her crew, as well, of course, as the other villains from before. He is now wearing a very high-tech suit that makes him super fast and strong, and he is almost about to get her when she starts flaming at him, and when Superman comes to see what the problem is with all the fire that he can see from above. Of course, she's still under the impression that it's him and starts attacking him, but not too long after that, Deathstroke blocks some of the fire and starts fighting them both. He knocks out the Flame Lady and continues to fight Superman, and then we see two holograms pop up in the distance talking to Deathstroke, that being Amanda Waller and Rick Flag, both, of course, government people who are starting Task Force X, as it seems, and they order Deathstroke to take down Superman, as they naturally perceive him as a threat and don't see how he really does want to help people as much as possible. The fight gets more intense when a couple of the large robots from the first episode come in and start really pounding down on Superman, hitting him with hit after hit under the orders of Rick Flag, and Superman's only able to take down one for a bit, but is then flung outside of the construction site, and one of the robots sends a laser that hits a pillar for a bridge with a lot of cars on the bridge. Superman's able to take down the robot and tries to fix the pillar, but is being accosted by Deathstroke, who is about to shoot him before Flag orders him to stop, not wanting innocents to get involved, despite the mission being to take down Superman. Deathstroke complies and they all leave, while Superman's able to fix the bridge with his heat vision, and he then flies away, making it back to the rooftop of the Daily Planet, where the sky is becoming a little overcast, as if it's about to start raining. Lois, of course, is very upset as Clark comes in for the roof entrance, but of course she notices the scars on his sort of below the neck and a bit on his face from the fight, and that, of course, paired with her knowing that he is Superman, just makes her more upset, and she tries to get the truth out of him, to which she eventually does. Of course, they get into a little bit of a fight about this, with Clark mentioning his reason for not telling, that being that she wants to kind of expose his story and that she kind of dislikes him. But she tells him that if she had known, she wouldn't have done that at all. But it doesn't really matter, as it gets too intense to where they basically part ways for the moment. Meanwhile, Jimmy is sitting out in the rain at a bus stop, waiting for his friends to show up, but they never do. He takes the bus anyway, and later on he's out in the woods looking for Bigfoot. He doesn't find Bigfoot, but he finds something else. A giant gorilla who, I presume, takes him away, and his camera falls to the ground, and that's the end of the episode. That was episode 5, a very interesting episode, I'll say. Right off the bat, it's sad to see Lois and Clark, kind of fight and drift apart due to Clark's secret. But I guess it's natural enough. It's not like some shows like this where the conflict would probably be like a misunderstanding or something. it's what I see as a natural kind of argument over, this sort of situation, someone being a superhero. And then, of course, there's, the side plot with, Jimmy and Steve, which is fine. It's not much of anything other than filler. And I'm intrigued by the end with Jimmy getting kidnapped by a gorilla. I think it's supposed to be Gorilla Grodd, because that's the only explanation I could have. Only explanation. There's no real complaints I have for like the animation or other things like that. In terms of voice acting, the one little nitpick I had was that Clark's voice actor didn't really sell some of the strain or the, I guess, peril during the part with the bridge almost getting destroyed. He's good at selling other aspects of the character and other parts of the show, but that part just didn't feel like he was doing his or using his full potential. And I hope that he really lets more of that potential out for later episodes. And then in terms of other nitpicks, I'd say Deathstroke's costume is a little weird, because in the comics and other media, Deathstroke usually has like a mask that's half orange, half black, or half dark blue, but this was like just a full orange mask, and it's like all a kind of metal suit, so it's very industrial looking, and the back of the head's a little elongated on the mask for some reason. It's a little awkward, but he does like have the dual swords like Deathstroke usually does, so that's kind of cool. And it's interesting to see that this really showcases how much Superman can really get hurt, because like Deathstroke swords have some sort of heating ability, and they like burn into Superman's, I guess, like close to the neck and shoulders, obviously, because you can't have too much blood and cutting and all that, seeing as it's still PG. Other than that, I like this episode. It's not the strongest, obviously. It's because it's more so build up for what's to come. I'm not sure how many episodes there are supposed to be left, because I don't know if this is going for like a traditional 13 episodes a lot of shows like this do, or if it's somewhere between 8 and 10 like some shows often do, like some Netflix shows, but more importantly just some cable shows now, just because either you want the story to be more tight and less spread out and full of filler, or because you're not too sure how long it'll last. So it could be a mix of both. But either way, I'm excited to see what is to come, and I'd imagine Clark and Lois are gonna kind of make up, and it'd be nice to see the romance really kick back into gear at some point. Just because it's kind of basic in places, I'm going to give episode 5 a 7 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for more, or just more videos in general. I'd appreciate if you liked this video and even subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I will see you guys next time, and do take care out there.